So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited this evening to share with you a process of interspiritual meditation that was created by a very good friend of mine, Ed Bastian, from the Spiritual Paths Foundation. We'll be talking about that. I'll tell you a little bit more about Ed in a few minutes. But as we always do, we're going to start with some music. This is a chant by an artist named Michael Stillwater. And after the music, I will be reading a poem from Rumi. While you're listening to the music, please just have your screen on gallery view and take a few minutes to actually look at the faces of the people who are here with us this evening. Experience this beautiful community and take a moment to send a blessing to each person through your eyes and through your heart.
Eternal, infinite being, we sing in the name of the one. Eternal, infinite being, we sing in the name of the one. Eternal, infinite being, we sing in the name of the one. Eternal, infinite being, has many names, yet is beyond all names and forms. Who has many names, yet is beyond all names and forms. We come together for healing, revealing who we are. We come together for healing, revealing who we are. We sing in the name of the one, eternal, infinite being. We sing in the name of the one, eternal, infinite being, who has many names, yet is beyond all names and forms. Who has many names, yet
From Rumi. What is praised is one, so the praise is one too. Many jugs being poured into a huge basin. All religions, all this singing, one song. The differences are just illusion and vanity. Sunlight looks a little different on this wall than it does on that wall, and a lot different on this other one. But it is still one light. We have borrowed these clothes, these time and space personalities from a light. And when we praise, we are pouring them back in. What you are looking for has many names and one existence. Don't search for one of the names. Move beyond any attachment to names. Every war and every conflict between human beings has happened because of some disagreement about names. It's such an unnecessary foolishness, because just beyond the arguing, there's a long table of companionship set and waiting for us to sit down. That song and poem for me describe so powerfully the real essence and heart of interspirituality. It speaks to the place that we can come together, not at the level of story, not at the level of narrative, not at the level of theology, but at the level of experience. Interspirituality has been described by Brother Wayne Teasdale, who coined the term in his book, The Mystic Heart, as the sharing of the deep resources of wisdom and practice across spiritual and mystical traditions. And one of the things that Wayne said is that spiritual practice itself is the inner technology of transformation, which is the heart of what being on the spiritual journey, being on a spiritual path, is really making available to each of us. So what we're going to be looking at this evening is a process developed by Ed Bastian. Ed is a scholar and decades-long practitioner of Tibetan Buddhism. He was for many, many years a participant in Father Thomas Keating's snow mass, what started out being called interreligious gatherings and ultimately became called interspiritual gatherings. Ed started an organization called the Spiritual Paths Foundation, which brought together a number of very experienced and mature practitioners from diverse traditions. They included Cynthia Bourgeot from the Christian mystical tradition, Kabir and Camille Helminski, who are Sufi teachers, Swami Atmarupananda, who is part of the Ramakrishna order, Rami Shapiro, who is a rabbi, mystical Jewish rabbi and holy rascal. And I'm trying to think who else. I'm probably missing someone. But they did a lot of practice and sharing together. And one of the things that they discovered is that there are a number of elements that form kind of essential key elements of a full, well-rounded spiritual practice that can be found in pretty much every contemplative tradition. And so Ed put those together into this 7-step process that he calls Interspiritual Meditation. And that's what I'd like to share with you this evening. In the early days of interfaith gatherings, there was a major debate and controversy over whether people of different traditions could even worship together. And there were a lot of people who felt that that would not be kosher. Things have changed quite a bit by then. But at the same time, there is a desire, certainly, to appreciate the uniqueness, the diversity, the specific contributions of all of the different traditions, and to recognize that all of them are part of our shared human wisdom heritage, but at the same time, not to impose our own path, our own perspective, our own names for the divine onto each other. So this process that Ed developed is a way that people of diverse traditions can come together and practice together by focusing on these elements that are universal while filling in the specifics of each step with the wisdom and resonance of your own tradition. Does that make sense? Is that clear? Okay. So, David, would you start the PowerPoint, please, on slide 3? So the 7 steps of the interspiritual meditation process. The first one is looking deeply at our motivation for engaging in practice. And this really has to do with the importance of happiness, health, and well-being to each of our lives. The second step or element is gratitude. The third is transformation, which refers to growing into our highest spiritual aspirations and ideals. The fourth is the intention to be loving and compassionate. The fifth is developing mindfulness and the capacity for one-pointed concentration, often through focusing on our breath. The sixth element is cultivating wisdom through the practice of deep meditation. And finally, the 7th step is dedicating the fruits of our practice to living lives in service to others, to the well-being of all. So these are the 7 that we will be looking at together this evening. David, would you go on to the next slide? So the first of these, again, is motivation, and it can be expressed in the aspiration, may I or may we be happy and healthy. May we have well-being in our lives. Anyone who has meditated for any length of time knows that it's not always a pleasant, fun, enjoyable experience. There are lots of times of frustration, lots of times that you sit down and the entire time is spent seemingly watching your mind flop around all over the place, thinking, why am I sitting here? I'm not getting anywhere. And so one of the things that's important is to be able to maintain our motivation to continue to practice day in and day out, whether it's enjoyable or frustrating, whether we feel like we're getting somewhere in our practice or not. And so the first step is really to remind ourselves and to think deeply about why practice. Why practice? One of the things that is often the case is that what brings people to a spiritual path is the experience that somehow their lives are not working. Somehow there is suffering, there's conflict in their relationships, there's a lack of satisfaction in their work, there may be health challenges, there may be a feeling of not being able to connect with a sense of purpose. Often suffering is the step onto the spiritual path. And so one of the first things we can do in clarifying our motivation for practice is to look at the ways in our lives we have gone about seeking happiness, seeking fulfillment, satisfaction, that haven't worked, that have been unsatisfying, and that have left us feeling that we need to look elsewhere, that somehow we get the sense that no matter how many of these alleys we go down, there's not going to be cheese at the end of any of them. And we're ready to really explore something different. Then to think about why we have a sense that a spiritual path and a practice of meditation may actually be more fulfilling, why we think this would be something beneficial for us to do. There has been so much research now that has shown that meditation helps to cultivate clarity, equanimity, patience, and the perseverance to heal the negative states of mind and heart that can generate suffering in our lives and illness on many, many levels of our being, not just physically. And so we begin, the Dalai Lama often says that all living beings share the desire to be happy, share the desire to flourish and live with a sense of well-being, that all living beings share a desire to avoid suffering, that those are inherent to our very nature. And so we begin with the sense that pursuing a spiritual path might in fact be a way for us to cultivate a sense of happiness, to be able to remove the causes of suffering that are internal. We may not be able to change some of the external circumstances of our lives, but we can remove the internal causes of suffering that are part of our own mind states. The third part of establishing motivation is connecting all of this, connecting a sense of practice to a larger sense of meaning and purpose in our lives, that we begin on this path and we engage so that we can live lives that feel purposeful, meaningful, contributory, and satisfying. So the first step in this process is to really reflect on and contemplate your own motivation for meditating, for engaging in spiritual practice. Any questions about that? Any comments? So why don't we do that now? Why don't we take just a minute and think about your own motivation? May also be your motivation for being here this evening to learn about this process. And see if you can allow that motivation to crystallize for you in the aspiration, may I be happy and healthy, or change the words so that they're meaningful for you. May I be happy, may I be a peaceful presence on this earth. So David, let's go on to the second step, which is gratitude. Gratitude has been described actually as the shortest shortcut to happiness. And what living with a sense of gratitude does is it establishes us in right relationship with the world around us, which gives us many, many, many more gifts than we actually return, and reminds us that we are part of a much greater whole that nourishes and sustains us. So in this contemplation, we reflect on and remember the kindness of others, the many miracles of life, the gifts that we receive and experience daily, the generosity of the natural world that sustains us, and the blessings we receive from our family and friends. We bring to mind in gratitude the teachers and mentors and spiritual role models who inspire us. And as we think of them, we offer thanks and we ask that they continue to guide us. And we also take the time to reflect on how right it is to be grateful, even for life's challenges, because those are the things often that help us grow in wisdom and often deepen our experience of compassion for the suffering of others. So the second step in this contemplative meditation process is taking time to focus on gratitude. So again, let's just spend a moment bringing to mind some of the things that you're grateful for. And so, David, let's now go on to the third slide. This is the step of committing ourselves to a process of inner transformation. There are two essential aspects to this contemplation. One is that we cultivate the humility to recognize and acknowledge our own shortcomings and the ways that we create suffering for ourselves and others in our lives. We allow ourselves to experience regret for the ways that we have caused suffering or harm. And we commit ourselves to doing better in the future. So forgiveness is also a major part of this commitment to transformation. We think of the qualities that we want to develop in ourselves. And so again, here we might bring to mind teachers and role models, people that we admire, and the qualities that we admire in them. And rather than giving into the temptation of thinking that they are somehow qualitatively different from us, we recognize that they are embodying the same human potential that exists in seed form in us as well. And we dedicate ourselves to cultivating those qualities in ourselves to the best of our ability. So the focus of this part of the meditation can be crystallized as, may I be transformed into my highest potential and my highest ideals. For those of you who've been through the seminary training, you know we sometimes talk about the golden shadow. And this step represents recognizing our own potential that we sometimes see in those that we hold up and even idealize, and say, I will cultivate that in myself to the best of my ability. Notice when I fall short, forgive myself, and try again. So again, take just a moment to reflect on your hope for, as you travel your spiritual path, who you hope to become. who you want to be in the world, how you want to show up in your life. And David, let's go on to the next slide. The fourth step is our intention to be a presence of love and compassion and healing in the world. Just as we want to be happy and healthy, free of suffering, free to thrive and grow into our fullest potential, we recognize that other living beings want these same things. And so we cultivate in ourselves the wish for the happiness and well-being and freedom from suffering for all living beings. I remember when I turned 45, which is now almost 25 years ago, I was one of the senior ministers of a congregation here in New York called Interfaith Fellowship. And I was set to give the message in our Sunday service. And I thought to myself, okay, what can I share with people on the occasion of my 45th birthday that I have actually really learned in life that would be worth sharing? Not what have I read in a book, not what have I heard someone give a lecture about, but what have I actually discovered through my own living that would be worth sharing. And one of the two things that came to mind was that I had genuinely learned that when my heart is open, I'm happy. And when my heart is closed, I suffer. And so it was very clear to me that the choice to be loving and compassionate, the choice to live with my heart open, was something that not only deeply supported my own experience of happiness in life, but also contributed to the happiness of the people around me. So in this step, we rededicate ourselves to living as a presence of love and a presence of compassion in this world, as a presence of healing. So for a moment, just see if you can feel that desire in yourself and how truly important and central and meaningful to your life that is. And let that crystallize for you. In the aspiration, may I be loving and compassionate. David, let's go on to the next slide. The fifth and sixth steps in this process are where we move into what we more typically think of when we think of meditation. In a sense, the first four steps are contemplations in which we prepare the ground of our consciousness to move into the concentrated focus and attention and quality of presence and inner calm and tranquility that allows wisdom and insight to arise in us. So the fifth step is the step of cultivating mindfulness. And generally, this is done through bringing the focus of our attention to our breath, following the breath. There are many, many, many breath practices taught by the different traditions. Some traditions count the breath. Others imagine the consciousness riding the breath from where it enters in our nostrils into the center of the heart, even down into the belly. Again, so much research indicates that following the breath calms, clears, and focuses the mind and helps us develop what is called the inner witness, in which we can step back away from the contents of our consciousness, from our thoughts, our sensations, our memories, our feelings. We can simply witness them arise and release them to evaporate like puffy clouds just dissolving in a clear blue sky. As we do this, it's like in the Taoist tradition, they say, muddy water let stand will clear. And so by not following our thoughts, by not chasing after them, by not giving them energy, but continually just bringing our focus back, bringing our focus back, bringing our focus back to the breath. It can be, again, as simple as counting the breath. It can be as simple as breathing in. I am aware that I am breathing in. Breathing out. I am aware that I am breathing out. We are allowing our consciousness to settle so that we develop the tranquil focus that we need to move into deeper meditation. So for just a moment now, just pay attention to your breath. See if you can bring your full awareness to the sensation of your breath entering pause at the end of your in-breath for just a moment and breathe out, following the breath all the way out. And as you breathe in, just think the simple thought in. As you breathe out, just think the simple thought out. May I become mindful through my breathing. And now bring your focus back into your physical space. As we go on to the next step, which is actually engaging in our chosen practice of meditation. For some people, the breath practice also is their meditation practice. So the fifth and sixth steps of the process are just a deepening. But there are many, many different forms of meditation that are taught by the different traditions. My primary meditation practice is centering prayer, which is a receptive practice. There are other concentrative practices. There is, in the Buddhist tradition, Vipassana practice, which is a practice of opening our awareness to all that is. What these forms of meditation open us to are deeper insights. It's as if we have planted seeds of wisdom and the capacity to glimpse into the true nature of reality and experience. For many of us, this becomes a glimpse of a unitive state of being, an experience of being one with all of life, and that our meditation allows us to ground our awareness and our consciousness in that experience, in that knowing, so that unity becomes not simply a conceptual idea, but a living reality that we can rely on as truth. May we become wise through meditation. May we see through the illusion of separation to the interconnectedness and interdependence of all of life. The final step, David, if you'll go on to the last, is to dedicate everything that has been part of our practice to helping to alleviate suffering, to bring joy, to take care of the world that we share, and to work for justice, peace, environmental sustainability, and the highest good and welfare of all living beings. In this part of the process, we may envision the day ahead of us. We may envision the people that we'll encounter through the course of the day, the experiences we're likely to have. And we imagine ourselves bringing our calm, bringing the loving kindness and compassion we aspire to, bringing the gratitude to each of the encounters, bringing the quality of presence we cultivate through mindfulness into each of the ordinary activities of our day, so that our practice becomes not simply what happens in our 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however much time we spend in our meditation place, but our practice becomes a moment-to-moment living of these aspirations and ideals throughout our day. So any questions? David, go on to the last slide. So these are the steps of the process. May we be happy and healthy. May we be grateful. May we be transformed, loving and compassionate, mindful through our breathing, wise through meditation. May we be in service to all. So this, I'm going to play a chant of Ed Bastian and one of his colleagues. They've come up with a little chant as a sort of mnemonic device for remembering these steps. And then we're going to go right from that into a guided meditation, guiding us through the practice of each of these steps.
May we be happy and healthy.
May we be grateful.
May we be transformed,
Loving and compassionate.
mindful through our breathing.
Wise through meditation.
May we be in service to all.
Interspiritual meditation is a universal 7-step process drawn from the world's great spiritual traditions. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced meditator, you can engage in this process on your own or in a community of people from many beliefs and traditions. In this process, please provide your own vision and your own focus for each of the 7 steps. Sitting alone or together, we honor and give thanks for the marvelous variety of practices from all the world's contemplative traditions. May we be healthy and happy. Meditation creates clarity, equanimity, patience, and perseverance to heal the negative states of mind that cause mental and physical illness. Meditation helps us to restore the essential life force within us. Please contemplate the ways you will create a happy and a healthy life. May we be grateful for life's many gifts. We remember the kindness of others, the miracles of life, and the natural environment that sustains us. We give thanks for the examples of great spiritual teachers throughout history. We renew our devotion to the ideals that give our lives meaning and purpose. We welcome life's challenges, for they help us to grow in wisdom and compassion for others. May we be transformed into our highest ideals. We visualize those beings whose lives we aspire to emulate. We contemplate the ideals we wish to embody. We vow to become the change we would like to see in the world. This precious life provides an opportunity to truly transform ourselves. Please contemplate your highest life ideals and renew your vow to fulfill them. May we be loving and compassionate. Love and compassion for others are the foundation for personal health and happiness. We renew our commitment to remove the causes of suffering in all beings. Just as we desire happiness for ourselves, so do we wish happiness for others. We open our hearts to universal love and compassion and promise to apply them in the world. May we become mindful through our breathing. Breath is the source of life, and calm, focused breathing is the foundation for meditation. Focused breathing reduces stress and helps us to be clear, focused, strong, and wise. Let your conscious awareness ride the breath from the tip of your nose to your heart center. Focus on your breath and observe the transience of your thoughts, emotions, and memories. Let them all evaporate like puffy white clouds in a blue sky. Breathing mindfully, we rest into focused equanimity and quiescence. May we become wise through our meditation. Mindful breathing has calmed our senses. The fruit of transcendent wisdom now ripens within our hearts. Our consciousness has been carefully cultivated. The seeds of deep tranquility, unity, and profound insight now flower within us. Honoring the marvelous diversity of all contemplative traditions, we engage in our own meditation. May we be in service to all beings. Slowly we emerge from our meditation, and we vow to bring our tranquility, wisdom, and compassion into each moment of our lives. We visualize our family, friends, colleagues, and even our adversaries. We vow to alleviate their suffering, to work for universal peace, a healthy environment, and the highest good for all beings. Please formulate your own dedications and renew your vow to fulfill them.
I'm aware that in my own personal practice, I generally include gratitude. I generally include an awareness of my aspiration of who and how I want to be in the world. And I generally include my specific meditation practice. This practice reminds me to also pay attention to the elements that I don't necessarily bring into my practice, into my awareness as regularly. Anyone want to share anything? Madeline. You can unmute yourself, Madeline.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've continued to be in spiritual groups, but there was something so special about the whole process tonight, and with being with so many in this group that just sort of deepened everything, just expanded everything for me. So truly, truly grateful. And I do say at moments, I was getting excited, and I found that being able to witness that, just brought me back to center. But excitement is often my way out of meditation, and the witnessing did bring me back. It was just lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yeah.
Ilya, you can unmute yourself.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, as someone who's, I don't have a meditation practice, and I'm, always sort of traditional meditation practice. I'm always sort of looking and curious and wanting to expand that part of my, my sort of daily life. I really found this really helpful, and so I just wanted to thank you. And yeah, it's just I found it really like a great. Like a very comprehensive, something about it just speaks to me because it's so comprehensive and touches in on so many levels. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? Obviously, many of these elements are things that we could spend hours, days, months of our lives reflecting on, contemplating, journaling about. Yeah, very, very rich. Very, very rich. Okay, thank you. Oh, Cece, were you raising your hand? Okay, can you unmute yourself? You got it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I sat back because I find it hard to articulate what I was feeling. I too, like Madeline, loved the special sense of gathering and being present in that. But this gave me some insight, especially around the well-being element. And I didn't realize how much I held on. And how much more I could probably give of myself if I'd let that go, and maybe a feeling of being less protected, and allowing of more opening, and therefore less fearful about stepping into the next space. Yes. But I felt such an openness and more light and space for me.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there's also wonderful, wonderful comments being shared in the chat. Please do read those before we finish. Thank you for staying over. I apologize for running long, but we will close our evening with a final piece of music, also Michael Stillwater. And if you would like to explore these steps in greater depth, Ed also has a book called Interspiritual Meditation, where he provides deeper process for inquiry into each of the elements of the process. I see Victoria has her hand raised. We'll have one more comment and then our closing song. Can you unmute yourself?
Good evening, everyone. Diane, it's such a joy to be gathered with you and so many in this beloved community. It was a privilege to bring my own practice into this new tool, this new way to be with the divine heart and to feel held in community. I think you have given us all, and Ed, Dr. Bastian, a lifelong tool that we can return to and expand. I found it was so easy to interject my own little prayer list, petitions, gratitude, people who've asked for prayer, etc. So this was a total gift, and I know it's all from your heart, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, David, let's have our closing song.
One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a
One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time. We're healing the world one heart at a time.
One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time.
Everyone comes to remember we're
One by one, everyone
one heart at a comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a
healing the world one heart at a
one
time.
heart at a
One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a one heart at a time. 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 One heart at a one by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time.
one heart at a
We're healing the world one heart at a comes to one by one, everyone comes to remember. One by one, everyone comes to remember. One by one, everyone comes to remember. One by one.
May it be so. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.